Oi, g'day. My name's Matt Whiteside. I'm a guy who does interview shows on the Uniweb interview show. And today my guest is Jared Greenwood, an author. Sorry. Alright, he's an author from Australia. And we got to sit down and talk. Had a great time talking with Jared. Awesome dude. Funny. Really laid back. Easy to talk to. Talked about his books. He's been writing since he was a kid. And we got to talk about his journey through writing, how he came about it, and all that good stuff. Interview's fantastic. Without further ado, I give you Jared Greenwood and the interview. What the hell is that thing? Jared Greenwood! Purple glow.
Oh my god, that's my chief special effects. How's it going, man?
That's how you do special effects in Australia. It's very nice. Low budget.
Yeah, man.
Jared Greenwood, thank you so much for joining me on the Uniweb interview show. I'm your host, Matthew Whiteside, as always. How you doing, brother?
Sleepy. Very sleepy. It's a bit early down here.
Yeah, so you're in South Australia, right?
Yeah, man, in Adelaide.
Adelaide. Never heard of it. There are a lot of sharks.
There
That's
are
where they
actually.
filmed Sharknado, right?
Where they did what, sorry?
Film Sharknado. Right.
Oh yeah, probably portions of it. Hey, now there's a ton of sharks here.
Really? But there's nice beaches.
Mm.
They're just
Yeah,
dangerous.
You got to weigh up, man.
Yeah. You just got to be really careful not to get eaten. Well, this is the first time I've talked to an Australian human being in my life, and I appreciate it. I like to pretend to be Australian sometimes. Some of my favorite people are Australian, or were. Steve Irwin, we talked about this before. He was one of my heroes, personal heroes. Do you do any... I know. Obviously, you're a writer and author, but living in Australia, is it really the outback? I mean, are you around a lot of wildlife?
No, man. It's like I'm in the middle of the city, so it's pretty.
Nothing like that.
No. Once see a kangaroo just like wandering around the street like in the middle of the night, but it's time, man. So it's pretty random.
Okay, so they're like deer then in America.
They're around. They're definitely around.
It's pretty cool, man. So you're a writer. You're also an ex-professional procrastinator. I'm just reading from your profile here. What has changed? Why did you quit being a professional procrastinator? Did you get a new job?
Well, kind of. Yeah, I used to be a researcher, so I used to be doing my PhD a few years back. I was doing it in like a form of psychology. I was doing like, what would you call it? Studying decision-making breakdown in massive emergency situations. So like wildfires and things like that. And and sitting probably in this very chair, doing not much at all. And then I didn't really like academia. It wasn't really for me. So I decided to try and follow or do what I wanted to do in the first place, which was write. So to do that, I went and got myself a certificate to do ESL teaching English, moved to Japan, started writing, came back to Oz, got married, had kids, couldn't procrastinate anymore.
This is time to get moving. So this doesn't sound like this was like a weekend. Sounds like you did this. No. this took some time. This wasn't a weekend certificate. How long did this process take of you getting this and then going to Japan and start writing? And like, this is a whole life change.
Yeah. To go to Japan and stuff, it probably took about 6 months. I did English teaching course in about a month, and then applied to move over there pretty much straight away. And they got back to me. I got something in about 3-4 months, organized it all, headed over. And yeah, so I spent about a year there and then just came back.
Do you know how to, do you speak Japanese?
Oh, no, man. That was part of the fun, hey.
Yeah, so how was that? Like having to figure out what the heck everyone was saying to you?
It was interesting, very interesting. I got by eventually, but it was more of the cultural things that you just don't really expect or you're not told. Like, I remember going into a restaurant and waiting for someone to come up and take my order. And I was sitting there for ages and nobody came. And I just kept, I observed the room, and all these people were like putting up their hands and going, "Sumimasen, sumimasen." And I'm like, so you call the waiter? That feels wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had to start calling the waiter. Did you throw like chopsticks at him?
So I didn't starve. So I did it. Yeah, basically.
That's fantastic. So, and I take it too, like being over there and not speaking the language. And you said you were working on getting your PhD in form of psychology, and I was interested in what you were saying too with the psychology, the what happens to people's decision making during a crisis. Like I'm sure some of that your studies played into watching the culture and the people and how to integrate into that without actually knowing the language. It was like trying to get inside people's heads with body language. And I mean, did you use some of your psychology training in that, or no?
Yes and no. I think a lot of it is natural instinct, man. Like if you're in a foreign situation where you can't communicate, everyone does the same stuff. It's like use your hand gestures, speak slowly, try and understand. But yeah, I did try and understand people a little bit, but at the same time, I didn't go out. I started learning Japanese a little bit, but I would just learn on my phone. I didn't have time to go out because I was working all the time, so I didn't have time to go out and do a lot of lessons. But and then about halfway through the trip, I kind of dunked my phone in Tokyo Bay after.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a summer festival, fireworks festival, and someone had thrown a frisbee into the water, and I'd had a few drinks, and I was like, "I'll get it," and kind of forgot I had a phone in my pocket.
Yeah. It's usually the way things go. That's all right though. But so this whole time you were over there though, you left the PhD course, the academia, you stopped that, and you decided to go take this adventure basically and write, right? So were you writing over there this whole time while you were teaching English?
Yeah, so it was a slower development because the first few months while I was over there, I was really trying to find my bearings, but. Yeah. I had taken like some notebooks and stuff, and I had these notebooks for many years. I used to, when I was younger, I used to just write in notebooks all the time. I had stacks of them, and they were all just full of like really bizarre information, like mystical creatures and made up factions and races and all of these things that I'd just create. Based off reading and playing video games and stuff. And I just kind of forgot about them, but always carried them. But I took a couple with me. And while I'm teaching, you get these breaks between lessons. So you've got like 40-minute lessons, and sometimes people don't show up for a lesson. So I'd have 40 minutes to myself, and I'd be like, all right, I'm just going to sit here and write.
And that's what you do. You would write. Were you working on a novel at that time, or were you just writing short stories or similar things like little anecdotes about your fantasy world?
Yeah, I was developing ideas, man. Because I've had these ideas for a very long time, and I've always wanted to turn it into something a little bit bigger. Not short stories or anything, but like epic fantasy kind of multiple series, things that follow each other into like this grand overarching storyline.
Yeah.
So I started this process. I started writing the first few chapters of the book that I've finished now. I think I've finished. If if my wife comes out and hears me say I've finished, she's going to laugh at me because every time I say this, it's not true.
She doesn't believe it. So you've finished a couple chapters of the novel you're working on now. So and this is the first novel in a series of. Do you know how many you're looking to write, or do you have an idea?
Yeah, I do. I'd really like to, if I can find the time. This book that I've written is envisioned as a part of 6.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, I also have plans to carry it on further into other series.
Like with the other characters that you've developed?
Yeah, like following a timeline. So the first group has kind of finished and we kind of carry on the world, but the characters are a little bit different.
Okay, that sounds really cool. And what's do you have like a name, a working title for it, or is it?
For the one I've finished?
Well, I mean, because most series like that, right? Most epic fantasy is like, I think of obviously Lord of the Rings or like Terry Goodkind has Sword of Truth novels, like The Wheel of Time, like all these different things, where they have like the overarching title, and then do you have like an overarching title for the whole series?
Not yet. I have been thinking of it. All of the book titles for my series at the moment, if nothing changes so far, the title of my novel is called The Wicks and the End of the World.
The Wicks.
So in every other series will be The Wicks and the Something, The Wicks and the Something, right?
Oh, okay. So I guess The Wicks and the End of the World, though, it's like there's not the end of the world if it's there's more books.
Oh, spoiler, man! Total spoiler.
Yeah, sorry. Don't worry, I'll cut it out. Don't worry. So, yeah, so you have a full-time job as well. So trying to find time to write an epic fantasy series has got to be pretty tough, right?
Yeah, dude. I write never in the mornings, never this early, dude. But when I get home from yeah, you're lucky, dude. I sometimes will finish work. Like some days I teach like all day. So if I'm teaching all day, then I won't write because I'm exhausted. So I have other days where I teach for half a day. On those days I can come home, I've got a bit of energy. I'll write into the evening until I can. And I'll find time on weekends when I can, but it's a little bit difficult. My son's almost 2, so he needs a lot of playtime, a lot of attention. Yeah. And my wife is 30 weeks pregnant with twins. So
congratulations, man.
Thanks, bud. Yeah. So finding time is a little bit of a challenge these days.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you're still teaching? You're teaching English to Australians?
Yeah, dude. We're not so good at it down here, hey.
Still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So are you an English teacher still?
Yeah, English teacher. I teach so still ESL, so I'm teaching like backpackers and immigrants and people on holiday and stuff, and just teaching people from all over the world, and it's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So where would you say you draw inspiration from for your writing? Is it from books you've read? Are there certain books that stick out to you that you're like, I want to write a book like that? Or is it something that you feel like it's just?
So when I used to read lots of fantasy, I kind of like don't read I still read a lot of fantasy now, but I kind of like diverged into all genres now. I read lots of different things, but when I was like very focused on fantasy, it was very much like Magician by Feast, all of the Forgotten Realms stuff by Salvatore, and also Wheel of Time. Okay. And all those bigger high fantasy kind of worlds, and I really got lost in a lot of that stuff. I especially love the world building. It's World building is fantastic. I got into reading in the first place by playing video games when I was a kid. I used
Yeah.
to play this Baldur's Gate. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah, I've heard. I never played it.
It's like this top-down role-playing thing, and it's very text-based, so you have to read through it. It's almost like playing a book anyway. But you're in this world, and that's just so well developed. It's amazing. It's also all the D&D stuff is based off.
Yeah.
So I kind of fell down the rabbit hole and chased all these books down and got lost in that world. So I really like that stuff. I'm also the book that I'm writing. It's middle grade, so I want it to be, it's for kids. I want to entertain kids and build a story that can grow up with them. Similar to things like the Harry Potter series and things like that. Yeah. So I guess that would be an inspiration as well.
Was that around the time that you found the stuff, the reading around that same age that you're writing for? I guess it'd be like from what, like 9 to 15 or so, or 9 to 13.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Around that age, I used to smash books out.
Just sitting there, never-ending story style in your attic, just reading nonstop. So the world building is interesting to me, and it's something that blows my mind that people are able to do, because the details, the intricacies that you have to go into. Do you find yourself writing paragraphs and paragraphs about doorknobs and like people's buttons on their coats and stuff like? Because I feel like you have to really dig into the culture, and buttons and doorknobs are very, in my opinion, part of people's cultures.
Dude, yeah, buttons are serious business, but I haven't gone into detail about the buttons in my books.
Yeah, think about
it. I'm definitely going to. No, there are certain scenes I think that require a bit of a little bit more filling out with the settings and descriptions. I'm not really big on character descriptions, so aside from their clothing, hairstyles, I like to let readers. I want readers to kind of develop their own idea of a character based on their actions and their interactions with other people. So I kind of stay away from any really detailed descriptions of them, aside from anything that's like a standout feature. As far as buttons and worlds, I do like, the setting, like, the town or the area that people are walking through. But if someone goes into a room or something, I'm not going to tell you when the wardrobe was made and what kind of grain the wood is and stuff like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like there's some books that'll get lost in that, and they'll waste like an entire chapter or multiple chapters on describing the intricacies of, a pub sign that's hanging on outside of a tavern, and it's just like, I really don't care. Like, what the hell are they going? They're not even going to the tavern.
I got 8,000 words to bust this story out, and there's just too much happening. So it's like, nah, I can't do that. And especially with kids' attention span, a lot of, like, when I was younger, if I was reading something like Lord of the Rings, man, that was a slog.
Yeah.
So, you want to keep the engagement level up, yeah?
Well, now they say like attention span is about 8 seconds for most people now, and I find even when I'm reading, like, especially it's like the Twitter reading. You read a headline, and we all read headlines, and if the headline isn't something that grips you immediately, then I'm not going to read anything else.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's got to, and especially for kids, I mean, they're devouring so much information on a regular basis from the internet, YouTube, and trying to get them to read books and that kind of thing. Are you using the psychology of catching people or hooking people with your writing as well?
I like to think so.
Yeah. You're not
Um,
sure though?
yeah, when I get published, man, or when an agent finds my book interesting, yeah, I'll get back to you. But
I
I,
like your SFF pit that you've got up on your Twitter. You've got pinned to your Twitter page. It's good.
what's that
All
one?
of the one you have pinned to your Twitter page, the Alice in
Yeah.
Wonderland times Magisterium.
Yeah. That was my Twitter pitch for sure. Yeah. So I always struggle for comps. Hey, I rack my brain trying to think of these things, and I've gone out and bought a whole bunch of middle grade books to try and read and see which ones are similar and stuff. And it was actually a beta reader who suggested that one to me, the Alice in Wonderland, because it never occurred to me. But when I actually thought about it, I was like, yeah, it kind of is, because the story follows this kid who's drawn into this world that is just bizarre, like Alice in Wonderland style.
That's pretty cool. And so, do you have a date in mind that you want to get the first book done by? I mean, I know you said your writing schedule can fluctuate, and you got twins on the way and stuff like that. But do you have a goal set for when you'd like to have the first draft finished?
The first draft was finished like 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, man, I've been working on this thing for about 4 years now, and it's
Wow.
yeah, like I had a lot more time in the past, and I'd smash out the first draft, but I've just been going through a process of editing and reworking and trying to make this story the best thing possible, like for what it is. So I've gone through. At the moment, I think I've had about 8 beta readers. My sister was the first beta reader, and she's actually quite good. She at times she didn't want to hurt my feelings, and I'm like, just go for it, just tear it to shreds. So we tore it to shreds and rebuilt it, and then I sent it to some other people, rebuilt it again.
Well, yeah. So I guess I misunderstood you in the beginning when you were talking about the first few chapters were done. You mean like completely finished? Like these chapters are ready to rock? Okay.
Yeah, man. I am querying like a like a madman.
That's awesome. Have you gotten any feedback from agents at all?
Yeah, actually, I had a partial not too long ago, and it was a rejection. Getting used to those now, but this agent was actually quite nice. It's nice when you get some actual feedback that's helpful. So at some point in the process, my word count ballooned. Like the original first draft was like 135,000 words or something ridiculous. And then I brought it down. I cut it like mad to about 95.
Wow.
And because 95 was, I think 95 is too much for a middle grade. So I just rebranded it and said it was young adult.
Right.
But the problem with that is the voice that I used initially to write it was aimed for younger kids. So you've got this mishmash of like long story. It's just basically a long MG. It's not young adult. And this agent came back and she said, look, it's not young adult. The voice is specifically aimed at younger kids. We can read that. We can see it. The humor and the flow and all of that stuff is very much middle grade. And I was like, yeah, guilty. I shouldn't have done that. So I went back at it with a chainsaw and cut it down to about 80, 84 now. So now it's just like the most condensed form of what it used to be. But without this agent, telling me, do this, it would probably be a little bit different still.
That's got to be really tough, man. Like hammering it down to that many, because obviously you wrote that. I know they talk about like 20% needs to probably be cut, but that's a lot. You said it started at 150,000 and it's down to 84,000 now. That's
yeah.
I mean, you've obviously taken a lot of time to craft it, so it's not like you're just cutting out whole paragraphs, right? I mean, you're condensing, hopefully.
Condensing. Yeah, making the language more succinct and making it flow. And I have cut out major scenes and rewritten stuff, but yeah, it has been a difficult process, but it's more of it's been a learning process for me. I mean, this is my first book that I've ever written. I started writing lots of things when I was younger, but I've never finished a book. And going through and having to do all this word count cutting and stuff is probably, half my fault for not doing the research in the first place and, what I actually need.
Yeah.
So now I know.
Right. I mean, you gotta, I mean, it's totally a learning process. I think even the best writers are still learning something new every day. At least I would think they are, as long as they're still writing. But that's interesting because I know with the first book, isn't there a part of you that's, because it seems like you've been very patient with this. I mean, you've had the thing written for 2 years, the first draft written, and you've done all these revisions. Isn't there a part of you that's like, oh my God, can I just publish this freaking book?
Yeah.
I would be like that.
Yeah. No doubt about it. I want to publish it, but I also don't want to publish something that is substandard to what I know it can be. I want this, like, I can't remember who said it, but there was someone said something about, if you're going to release your first book, you might as well come out with a bang, right? You want it to be the best product it can be. So I don't want to release anything that's going to, like, people see my name on another book and they go, oh yeah, I read the first one, it's crap,
I kind of go by the principle of, the movie The Room, Tommy Wiseau, and you've probably heard of it. The worst.
Love it. Spoon.
I'm kind of in the, like, I hope my book gets, either it's really great, or like it's The Room type level of bad, where people are like, this is the worst thing I've ever read. You've got to read it. I'd be totally okay with that, because I think everybody's still waiting for another Tommy Wiseau movie.
Yeah.
The
Dude,
Room.
I might I'll troll people and I'll just release the second book and it'll be the worst thing anyone's ever read, and they'll go, what is this?
I think there's a part of, I mean, because it's got to be polarizing to some extent on either one spectrum or the other. Otherwise, it's like you're not really gonna get noticed. I mean, there's so much in between literature out there. Like, trying to find a way to be either really good or like really crappy, I think, is the key to long-term success. Like, if you can, and I think for me personally, I feel like I could personally write crap for the rest of my life. It's just kind of at my level. Now, you may be somebody who can write really high-level stuff for the rest of your life. I think it's finding that medium.
Yeah. After going through this process, I mean, I've started writing the second book, and that one's kind of flowing a lot easier than the first one. So I think,
Well, you've got to know the characters, like, you know the characters now inside and out, like they're your own children, basically, right?
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things to learn was what not to put in the book, because you've got this like fully developed world and all these characters in your mind, but I think in the first drafts of the book I was like, explaining all the world and explaining what these characters are doing and all these explanations, and I'm like, cut, man, just cut it all, make it so it's like the readers are guessing. You don't have to give everything, and makes it more interesting because the readers are wondering, they're thinking about what's going on with these characters or the world and whatnot. So yeah,
it's interesting. Hey, I know you got to get going to work and stuff like that, so can work on wrapping it up. But so I want to know, like, what kind of legacy are you looking to leave with your writing? Obviously, this is something that you want to be able to do full time at some point in your life?
Oh yeah, I would love to. I would really like to hammer out these books. And just get them out there, like, I want people to just read and enjoy them, really. Like when I was a kid, I would get lost in these worlds. I'd love these books, and it was just this amazing escape, and I wanted to offer the same thing to other people, basically.
Yeah. No, it's especially at that age. It's like the most difficult developmental time I think in a human's life is that 9 to 13 because it's like so much is changing, and you still don't have control. You have no like real control in your life because you're still living at
Mm.
home. You're still being told what to do all the time, and it's like trying to find a safe place is so important. And I know how important reading was for me, finding that safe place, like with Harry Potter and that kind of thing. Um,
Mm.
but that's great that you want to be able to do that because it sounds like it was something that was a safe place for you too to escape to.
Yeah, absolutely. And just being able to give people that same opportunity is the best thing. It's what I want to do, really.
Yeah. Wow. Cool, man. Do you have any questions? Or let me ask you this: if you leaving the writing community with one thing that if nobody knows you on Twitter, you've been on Twitter since November of 2018. I see on here.
Yeah, yeah. You spying on me, bro?
I'm looking at your page. Yeah. What do you want? What do you want the Twitter world, the writing community, to know about you? Because I know me coming into the Twitter was a very scary thing, and the writing community has been amazingly
Yeah.
helpful to me. What would you like the writing community to know about you?
I'm writing a book.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, no, that's basically it, man. Like, I only joined, like you said, a few months back, so in November, and I had no idea what to expect from Twitter. And with got involved and started chatting to all these amazing people, and all these people that are writing all these stories, and I made all these connections, found beta readers, critique partners, so been reading other people's work and stuff, and it's just been this really welcoming community that everyone's just happy to help each other, which is awesome. So yeah, I'm writing a book.
Writing a book. And what are your keys to success on Twitter and writing a book?
Success on Twitter, I have no idea. I still don't know what I'm doing.
You're doing a pretty good job. I mean, since November, I don't know how it works either, man. Like, why are people interested in following me?
Yeah, that's apparently how it works, man. And then success with writing, just don't stop. Just find the time whenever you can, but don't push it to the detriment of other things in your life as well, like family and friends and things. Like, you've got to live, but you got to write as well. So you got to find that balance,
It's hard to write when you don't experience anything, right? And it's like, if you're just so wrapped up in writing constantly, you have no new experiences, your writing kind of suffers.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool, man. Well, Jared Greenwood, thank you so much for joining me all the way from Australia. It's 6 a.m. Thank you so much for getting up with me. Oh, and the Twitter secret, it's buttons, man. People love buttons. They like to click buttons. Start writing about buttons.
Think me in on that, man.
It's going to change the world.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me. Hey.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you later, okay?
No worries, bro. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you would, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification for the bell. You know what? We love you. Love you. Love you. You know what?